Welcome to Rise Untold, where the stories behind the spotlight come alive. Charlie Chaplin. Few names in film history carry the same weight. He wasn't just an actor. He wasn't just a director. He was cinema itself. The little tramp with idiots. The bowler hat and cane could make you laugh, then make you cry, then leave you questioning the world you lived in, all without saying a word. For millions, Chaplin was hope. His films bridged class divides, gave dignity to the downtrodden, and spoke a universal language of humor and humanity. But even legends face strange twists of fate, and one of Chaplin's most famous films was wrapped in one of Hollywood's oddest Oscar scandals. Imagine this. You make a film at the height of your career. It gets recognized by the Academy, nominated in 4 major categories: Best Actor, Best Director, Best Writing, and Best Comedy Picture. Your work is poised to sweep the Oscars. And then, the nominations are stripped away, erased. Not because of scandal, not because of a mistake, but because of you. Because the Academy thought you were too good, too powerful, too much Chaplin. That's exactly what happened with The Circus in 1928. This film wasn't just another comedy. It was the definition of Chaplin's genius. The tramp, down on his luck, finds himself in a circus where everything goes wrong. Yet somehow, he turns chaos into magic. Audiences roared with laughter, gasped at the danger, and cried at the bittersweet ending. It was Chaplin's craft at its sharpest. But getting there wasn't easy. The production of The Circus was cursed with obstacles. Chaplin's studio caught fire, destroying sets. His messy divorce from Lita Gray filled newspapers with scandal and drained his finances. At one point, footage of the film was even seized as part of the court battle. As if that wasn't enough, a freak storm tore down the big top tent where crucial scenes were being shot. What should have been a smooth production stretched into years of hardship. Most filmmakers would have given up. Chaplin didn't. He rebuilt, reshot, and refined until he had something worthy of his name. In the end, The Circus became one of his most beloved films. So when the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, a new institution at the time, created the first official Academy Awards, they noticed. Chaplin was nominated in 4 key categories. It looked like he was going to dominate the ceremony. But then, something unprecedented happened. The Academy withdrew all of Chaplin's nominations. Quietly, almost secretly. Instead, they gave him a special prize, an honorary award, recognizing his versatility and genius in writing, acting, directing, and producing. On paper, it sounded like praise, but in reality, it was an excuse. The Academy had decided Chaplin was simply too influential, and if he competed against others, no one else would stand a chance. Think about that. An institution designed to reward excellence punished a filmmaker for being too excellent. Chaplin didn't lose because his work wasn't good enough. He lost because it was too good. The Academy's reasoning was that Chaplin's all-encompassing involvement as writer, actor, director, and producer made it unfair to judge him against others who only specialized in one category. But deep down, many believed the truth was simpler. The Academy feared his dominance. In a room full of stars, Chaplin's light was too blinding, and so his 4 nominations were rescinded. Gone. To this day, no other filmmaker has been treated quite like that. For Chaplin, the irony must have been sharp. He had endured fires, lawsuits, storms, and personal humiliation just to finish. The Circus. He had poured years of his life into it. And just as he stood at the edge of recognition, Hollywood's highest honor slipped away. But Chaplin was bigger than awards. History proved it. The Circus went on to be celebrated as one of his finest films. The tightrope scene, where Chaplin dangles for his life while monkeys attack, remains one of the greatest examples of physical comedy ever filmed. Critics hailed its brilliance, audiences adored its charm, And decades later, the movie was restored and honored as a classic. So why does this story still matter today? Because it reveals something hidden about both Chaplin and Hollywood itself. Hollywood has always had a complicated relationship with Chaplin. He was adored by audiences but often mistrusted by the establishment. His politics leaned left, his voice was outspoken, and his personal life scandalous in the eyes of conservative America. He was too rebellious, too international, too unwilling to play by the rules, and when someone like that gets too much power, institutions push back. In 1929, the pushback came in the form of stripped Oscar nominations. Later, in the 1950s, it came in the form of exile, when Chaplin was barred from returning to the United States over accusations of communist sympathies. Each time, the establishment tried to put him in his place. Each time, Chaplin rose higher anyway. And maybe that's the real untold story. That greatness doesn't just face obstacles from failure, but sometimes from success. Sometimes being too good makes you a target. Think about it. How many artists, leaders, or innovators have been cut down not because they weren't talented, but because they were too talented? How many times have people in power decided the playing field needed to be tilted, not to protect fairness, but to protect themselves from being overshadowed? Chaplin lived that reality. And yet, despite losing 4 Oscar nominations, despite scandal, exile, and criticism, Chaplin's name has outlasted them all. Who remembers the winners of those 1929 Oscars today? Very few, but everyone remembers Chaplin. His tramp still walks across screens. His influence still shapes comedy and film. His legacy still belongs to the people, not the Academy. So maybe the strangest twist of all is this: losing those nominations might have given Chaplin something greater: immortality. Because when history looks back, it doesn't count nominations. It counts impact. And Chaplin's impact is untouchable. If you've ever felt underestimated, if you've ever felt punished not for failing, but for succeeding too well, think of Charlie Chaplin. Think of the Circus. Think of the man who lost 4 Oscars because Hollywood feared his shadow. There's something deeply human in that. Because maybe you've been there yourself. Maybe you've worked harder than anyone else in the room, put your soul into something, and instead of applause you were met with silence. Or worse, envy. Maybe people decided your light was shining too bright, so they tried to dim it. Not because you weren't good enough, but because you were too much, too capable, too threatening. That was Chaplin's reality in 1929. He created something extraordinary. He proved he could act, direct, write, and produce at the highest level. And for that, instead of being celebrated, he was sidelined. His nominations erased. His brilliance boxed into an honorary award, as if to say, yes, you're great, but we can't let you compete. We can't let you win. It would have been easy for him to grow bitter, to walk away, to let humiliation silence him. But he didn't. Chaplin understood something timeless. Awards don't define greatness. Recognition doesn't always come in golden statues. Sometimes the world won't clap for you, but that doesn't mean your work isn't extraordinary. Look at history. Who remembers the winners of those 1929 Oscars? Who quotes their lines or studies their craft today? Hardly anyone. But the Circus is still watched, still studied, still loved. Chaplin's tramp still dances across the tightrope of history. And that's the lesson. Real greatness lasts. Temporary setbacks, no matter how painful, fade into the background. So if you're sitting in a place where your talent feels like a burden, where people try to clip your wings instead of letting you soar, remember Chaplin. Remember that sometimes the world resists what it can't control. Remember that being underestimated isn't always an insult. Sometimes it's proof that you've outgrown the space you're in. Think of the courage it takes to keep creating when the system says no. Think of the strength it takes to keep smiling when the applause is withheld. Think of the dignity it takes to rise, not in anger, but in persistence. That was Chaplin. That can be you. Because in the end, it wasn't 4 rescinded nominations that defined him. It was the millions of people whose lives he touched. It was the laughter he sparked in dark times. It was the hope he gave to a world that desperately needed it. If Chaplin could survive that, and still rise, maybe you can too. And maybe, just maybe, the very thing they try to take from you today will become the reason the world remembers you tomorrow.